Good morning, everyone. We have already talked about two topics. So today we will talk of a new topic. I hope that you are safe from coronavirus. Take care of yourself, your family members, and we had some important instructions from Government of India also. So please take care of all those instructions. Be safe. So let us in line then talk of uh, ethics in marketing, which is we are going to talk today. Uh, we have been talking about ethics in classes wherever we have come across such discussions. But I think that it is very important to talk of the ethics in marketing, specifically in contemporary times. I think I should tell you that if you would read about the evolution of marketing, the marketing has evolved. A lot of water has passed since then, and today marketing is not simply only the activity of understanding the consumer's needs and giving the products to the consumers so that they can fulfill their needs, but it is also about you know uh, to look at the larger perspective of marketing. If you would read the contemporary books on marketing, you would invariably realize that marketing has maybe a larger mission also. We are now talking of marketing to be responsible for improving the overall lifestyle, the living standards of the people. Of late, I was hearing Philip Kotler saying that the marketing should also be looking after this social responsibility. Marketing has an overall task of creating the jobs also for people. So we do not only talk of marketing fulfilling the needs, but we also talk of marketing to be responsible for the cause of giving work to the people. So, what does marketing do? How can you relate marketing with this? That marketing makes the people to purchase, makes the people to elevate their standards, and in exchange of that, they are willing to accept those standards, and as a result, they are purchasing more, and when they are purchasing more, the demand is increasing, and when the demand is increasing, so the more production needs to take place, and when more production takes place, so the more jobs comes in. So this is how we kind of look at the marketing in today's context. So we look at marketing as to be the job provider also. But at the same time, since the marketing has taken up the multi-dimensional view of it, we have also seen marketing to be doing something to the society which may not be that much appreciable. And when we talk of such things, then we talk of ethical aspects of marketing. I don't know whether I've shared this story with you or not. I remember I was in this workshop in IIM Lucknow, and there was this gentleman who was heading some research agency in Japan, if I'm not wrong. And then the question was asked from this gentleman that uh, the marketers are making the people to buy the things which they don't need, uh, to spend the money on those things which they actually do not need, and hence we are talking of this fictitious demand being built up. And the question was that there will be a time when this fictitious bubble will break out. And how do you see marketing at that time when this bubble would break out? I was also amazed to hear to the response of this gentleman who was heading a very prestigious marketing research agency in Japan. He said that you please tell me which part of marketing is ethical, or because we were talking of that it is the fictitious demand that is being generated. But then his simple answer was in the form of a question, and he asked that which part of marketing is ethical, you tell me. So that actually tells you the practitioner's view also, wherein we are talking of marketing and the marketers practicing such things, which for that matter are not interested in the means, but they are interested into the end result of it. And hence we have been talking about subliminal advertising. We have been talking about making the people to purchase which they actually don't need. We have been talking about to make the people to spend the money which they don't have. on the things which they do not need, to create impressions that do not last long, and that too on the people they don't really care about. So, in this context, this discussion of ethical marketing becomes important, and it is this task that we will be doing today. And in this context, let us talk of the marketing part of it. Let us talk of the ethical side of marketing, so that we can spend some time in understanding what our literature has to say about this. So for that we can look at this topic. And when we talk of ethics, we look at ethics as to be the moral principles which guides our actions and decisions of an individual or a group. So we can talk of an individual, we can talk of a group. uh, whenever our uh, Whenever our decisions are guided by the certain values and certain principles that we believe in, these actually are something which can be called as ethics. And so this is important to understand. We already had a discussion on this we already had discussion on belief system. How do we define beliefs? And when we talk of beliefs, we have already talked about that it is the assumptions about reality, and these beliefs actually gets converted into values, and they get converted into principles, and we look at every decision of ours through the lens of these principles and values. And when we look at every decision of ours through values and principles, then we say that our behavior is more ethical now, if we would actually gauge our every step through our values and principles. So this is how we look at ethics. So one important thing that is very much clear from this definition is that ethics are not fixed, they are not static, they are not standardized, they are very much personal to us, right? So we will talk of perception in the coming semester, and in that also we'll talk about that these values are very much personal to me. I have my values, you have your values, and your values can be different than my values, and hence something which is ethical for you might not be ethical to me, something which is ethical to me might not be ethical to you. So that is why it is a very agile concept. And hence perhaps till date we have not been able to freeze down, and we have not been able to prepare a black and white document around the ethical conduct of marketing, because maybe we cannot pen it down into a piece of paper. That is something which is important to understand. Now, despite all the good things that marketing would have done to consumers, there are some criticisms also. And these criticisms, because we are discussing ethical criticisms, ethical part of marketing, so we will talk of ethical criticisms. And these are the criticisms which we will cover in the today's discussion. We will talk of high prices, we will talk of deceptive prices, we will talk of high pressure selling, unsafe products, planned obsolescence, poor services to disadvantages consumers, and unhealthy competitions. So these all are those things which I think we can talk today when we talk of the ethical criticisms of marketing. And obviously we can then talk of the impact on consumers, society as a whole, and other businesses also. So let us pick these things one by one, and we can spend some time on this. So the first thing, which is high prices, and then we will also come to the differential pricing. Now, some people say that keeping the product's price high is unethical, because by keeping the prices high, you are not giving fair chance to everyone into the market to get access to your product. We have, if you will go onto even Google, onto the different texts, you will invariably realize that there are both opinions onto this side. That high prices are not ethical. There is a school of thought which says it is ethical. When you look at that school of thought which says that the high prices are ethical, they say that high prices, we are not keeping the prices high just out of nothing, but we have our reasons that why we keep prices high. You have been hearing about the discussion on brands and branding and the premiums that they are charging. So when you are selling anything into 20,000, So we have already had the discussion on pricing, and we have talked about that consumers evaluate and process the pricing information very actively, and they do not accept the price unless they actually look at the worth of it, which they compare by looking at its price, and they would only invest into that product only when they see that the worth of this product is actually equal to the money that I'm paying for it. So when you are keeping high prices, you are actually providing the worth equivalent to it also. So you have been talking about that money cannot buy anything, but when you are buying prestige with the help of a product, so that prestige is not coming free of cost. So that has a price to it, and hence the high pricing. If you would look at the practical side of it, you can also understand it, that the high prices are not coming from nowhere, but you have the brands, and the brands have become brand because of advertising and because of the promotions cost, and they cost you. And when it costs us, so obviously this cost has to be reflected into the prices also. So anything which has been there on television, anything which has been there into the communication, so that the marketer is not doing a social job, he has to pass on these prices to the consumers. So this is how we look at high prices, and we look at that school of thought which says that the high prices are actually not unethical, but these are very much ethical, and in fact there is no morality associated with it. It is a very practical sense which tells you that high prices are actually can be traced back with some very tangible reasons, and the reasons could be like this: advertising, promotions cost of distribution, the markups, etc., that we do to it. So then the other side of it, the people who say that no, it is a bad thing to do, then they say it like that, the prices when they are high, you are actually creating segmentation, inequality into the market, which is not a very good thing to do. So if you would look at from the marketer's perspective, I also believe that keeping the prices high for certain products is should not be looked at as to be an unethical practice, because this is how eventually marketing is being done today. If you do not offer the value equivalent to the price that you have fixed for your product, obviously you will not sell into the market. So if you are selling into the market, then obviously you have a worth to it also. So it is the evaluation of the worth that you're providing and the prices that you offered to it. So if it is selling at that price, then it is actually having that worth also. So for that from that angle, it is not unethical thing to do. This is another thing for that school of thought. They says that we are providing more convenience to the consumers, we are providing more distribution channels, more places, we are providing quality assurances, we are providing return privileges, and these all things do come at a cost, which actually makes it to be a high cost thing, and the prices actually kind of go high. So obviously this is not something that we should look at as to be a very high thing. So, for example, look at this pharmaceutical industry. Those people who invest a lot into R&D, obviously they will be selling at a higher cost. And those people who have not invested too much in R&D, they might sell it at a lower cost. But then this cost has come from the tests, from the R&Ds that they have actually invested in, and they are providing more quality assurance than the other people who are selling the things at a lower cost. So the quality assurance, the promises, the prestige, the value that you get out of it, it has a cost to it, and that cost consumer has to bear. Only then he would have these products, otherwise you will not have these products. Other angle also you can look at it, we have perhaps discussed it, that whenever it has so happened that because of the motto of slashing the prices, we have compromised onto our quality, this has actually backfired for the companies who are the big is big. So we know this case of BMW taking over Mercedes. It happened when the Mercedes has got this merger with Chrysler, and when they have to narrow down, they have to kind of settle down the losses, settle down the financial troubles. because of this merger, they have started asking for the negotiations from their suppliers, and as a result of it, they have started supplying them the raw materials which were not that good, which were not carrying on that quality assurances, and as a result of that, the Mercedes has to face the price. So that is where you have to look at the high prices as to be quite much relevant, and you just should not be calling it as to be an unethical practice. Now then, there is one more aspect to it which we should talk, and that is something which we call as differential pricing, and that also comes into this category of high pricing. Now this is a LinkedIn post, and here is someone who is posting. What an irony! Same date of manufacturing, same product, but two different prices. So one on the left has MRP of rupees 370. So this is what he is talking about. Was purchased by Big Bazaar Vasant Kunj, and the one right, which is MRP 316. So this was purchased from a local Kiryana shop. So the same product, but having the two different prices. So something which is available in Big Bazaar is more expensive than something which is being sold at a local Kiryana store. This is differential pricing. Now this is something which people have been talking about as to be a very unethical practice, and this is what this gentleman is also highlighting, whether this is a strategy or an unethical practice. So that also we need to kind of look at. And differential pricing, obviously, you can term it as to be unethical practice, and more people have agreed this differential pricing as to be an unethical practice. So that is something we can actually club it into the or under the umbrella of unethical practice. But keeping the prices high should not be actually looked at as to be something which is an unethical practice. So this is differential pricing. We have already talked about it. So this is what we are talking, 370. Obviously, the places from where they were manufactured were the different places. So you see the plant code. This is FC27. This is FB27. So maybe the batch number or something is different, because they knew that this batch is going to be getting into Big Bazaar and this batch is going to go into local market. So they have intentionally kept the prices different. There is one more side to it, which is also called as the deceptive pricing. And have a look at this. Now this is an image which is taken from Flipkart, and you see this product, and this product, somehow they have forgot to snatch out this MRP thing which is written onto this slipper. So when you will zoom it up, you will find out its MRP is 194 rupees. And then when they have projected the price of it, they say it is of 400 almost, and I am providing this much of off, and the product is available at 148. So now the actual price was 194. They have escalated the price to 399, and then they have given the off, and now the product is available at 148 rupees. So this is an unethical thing, and it is not an unethical thing, but it is a super unethical thing. So such things obviously should be stopped, and there has to be a controlling agency which should be looking at this differential and unethical pricing also. But if you would look at, you will find out that there are some business models which actually have this mechanism of differential pricing inbuilt into it. Now, for example, when you will go into, say, Domino's, you will have this Coke bottle or Pepsi bottle. That Coke or Pepsi bottle is actually being sold at a high MRP when compared with the same bottle being sold somewhere else out into the local market. So that business model is such. When the Domino's has got into a contract with, say, Coke or Pepsi, they would have actually kind of signed it, and to recover those costs, maybe the Pepsi or the Coke has to escalate the prices, because for every unit of Pepsi or Coke which the Domino's is selling, they might be getting some commission from the Coke and Pepsi, from the parent company. And to actually cover off this commission that they are giving to them, maybe they are selling at a high price. So the business models are such. But then is it an unethical practice? You actually need to look at what are the laws around it. Do they allow us to do all these things? But obviously, the service conditions in which the product is served They are different. When you are drinking a Coke into a Domino's thing, you are actually having a different thing in place. And when you are actually talking of when you're actually talking of the Coke being drunken somewhere else, you have the different service conditions. In fact, you need to look at the things from the various dimensions. Just look at this. The government also is kind of having this service tax. When you are eating into restaurants, you might need, you might top of that tax. So that means when you are being served, so you have to pay extra to it. So there are a lot of dimensions into it, and these dimensions actually also need to be looked at before calling anything as to be a differential pricing or the unethical or the deceptive practices. So obviously this is something which should be termed at, now this thing that we are currently looking at, this should be termed at a super unethical practice, and it should not be done, and there should be some stringent measures which should be adopted. Now this is not where the parent company is doing the differential pricing, but this is the seller, which is Flipkart in that case, or whosoever has posted this, the seller of this product, they have deceived, and this actually should be brought into the net of law. So this obviously is an unethical practice. So we also talk of deceptive pricing, and deceptive pricing would be falsely advertising factory wholesale prices. So this is what we have looked at into the previous picture. So falsely depicting the factory and wholesale prices, and we can also talk of deceptive packaging. Deceptive packaging is that you actually create a package which appears to be containing more thing than it actually contains. So that is something which has also been observed, which has also been noticed. You might be in a very light mode would have heard the people saying that this lace packet is actually filled of air, it is having a very small content into it. So should we call it as a deceptive packaging? There is another thing to it. Now have a look at this picture. You look at this and you would see that, oh, it is a big bowl which is having the fresh tomatoes into it, and I am buying this. But when actually you look at this minutely, you will invariably realize that this is how it actually looks like. So it has a bump in between which is actually eating out a lot of space, and you just cannot place the things in here. And then this is how it looks like. So obviously this middle space is something which is not visible when you look at this picture, and something which is displayed to you is this, which is picture number 1. Actually the thing is picture number 2 and picture number 3, and the 3 thing actually tells you the whole story, that how these deceptive practices are being performed by the people at large. But again, you have to look at practically to it. Should we at all call it as to be deceptive practice? When you have the mandatory measures wherein you have to mandatorily write down the quantity of the product or the eatable in this case at the packaging of it. So suppose if this packet says that it has say 500 grams of tomatoes into it, or 1 kg of tomatoes into it. So 1 kg of tomatoes are there, so you know how much quantity you are buying before, and you can always check it. So nobody stops you to do that. And that is how, when the information is available to you, you should be an informed buyer. That is how this deceptive practice, the people who have been practicing it, they have been actually telling this, that the buyer has to be an informed buyer. We let him or her know everything about our product that we are selling into the market, and when you know this and then you are buying it, then it cannot be called as that we have fooled you. So this is not something that can be brought into the court of law, because you know what you are buying it. But then the point is, the ethical thing is not illegal thing also. So something which you follow by the values and principles, you just do not take it into the law in the at the face value of it, because this is not fixed. This is not it is about that should you do it or should you not do it, right? This is the larger question, rather than can you be caught legally or can you not be caught legally. So this is how you might have 10 ways of saving yourself, through legal procedures, but then you have to be kind of answerable to yourself also, that am I deceiving the people when I'm doing my marketing at that place. So this is a larger question that we actually need to look at. So the deceptive practices, so the common reply would be that we have informed the buyer that what we are selling, and they are selling it, we have not hidden anything from them, and when they are buying it, that it is their own informed decision that they are exercising. And from their perspective, the buyer's perspective, they say, oh, we were shown this, and then it has come out to be something like this. So if you would look at from the consumer's perspective, it might be unethical, but if you would look at it from the marketer's perspective, you might not call it as to be unethical, because they have told everything to the consumers right from the beginning. Another ethical issue with marketing that they have been talking about is high pressure selling. High pressure selling, which means that you as marketer would train the salespeople to deliver smooth and canned tasks is pre-freeze tasks which they are trained for it to entice purchase. In other words, you are making the people to buy the things which may not they have any intent of buying beforehand. It is only after you have convinced them they have thought of getting into this purchase. This is called as high pressure selling. So you know that the selling has been very influential in the early stages of marketing also. In fact, by looking at the importance of selling, we have already given a name to it, which is the selling orientation, wherein the people were pushing the products. People here are marketers were pushing the products, and that was called as the selling concept or the sales concept. So selling has been influential. You talk of persuasive selling also, wherein you actually have to talk of that you have to you have to accept this, that this selling is actually the persuasive, and you have to take your own call. But then you have those psychological processes where the sales force is trained in such a way that you actually come to those practices that they have been practicing. And that is why a while ago when we were talking about that marketers are making you to spend the money which actually don't have on the things that you don't need, that too to create impressions that do not last long, and that too on the people that do not really care about. So this is something that we actually have to accept, that the high pressure selling makes us to buy at times something which we may not have an intent of buying it. But if you would look at the current scenario, they have taken another route. So by doing the display of the products, they have actually increased the impulse buying. So impulse buying is when you have not planned to buy it, but you have bought it because you have looked at it and then you realize that you might need it. So that is another way of selling the product into the market. So it does happen, obviously we know it does happen, but not many people kind of do this, and they say, the text at least says that it is not a very good practice to be adopted in the long run. So which means that if you have to build up a long-term relationship with your consumers, you better be not going with high pressure selling. But obviously it should be termed as unethical practice. Okay, so let us talk of one more unethical practice, which is unethical practice if you would look at like this. It is providing unsafe products to the consumers, products that are not made well, or the services that are not performed well. These are not good products to be used by the consumers, and these can be called as unsafe products, right? So look at this picture. The toys that you manufacturers that the manufacturers provide at the cheap rates, these toys, the paint that they use to paint these toys, it has been found at some point of time that they have been using lead when they are painting the toys. So the paint contains lead. So you would have looked at the kids. So what would they do is that they would kind of take the toys into their mouth also, they will lick it also, so that way it can kind of get down into their body, and that might harm them also. So you can see this picture which tells you that a company has to recall around 1 million toys. So which is kind of a thing which should we call it as unethical, because when you go into the market, even let's take a very simple thing. When you go into the market and you try to buy a bottle which you keep in your fridge for the storage of waters in summers, you can find a bottle which is maybe available in 20 rupees, and you might find a bottle which may be available in 200 rupees. So the 20 rupee bottle obviously would not be considering all these points, and that might be harmful to you, but then it is saving the cost to you. So the point is that, is it an unethical practice, because then you are not also charging more to the people. But when it comes on to the health, when it comes on to the real health issues, then it should be termed as an unethical practice, because unknowingly someone is involving into such purchases, and then you are actually making the people to fall sick, and hence it is an unethical practice which should be stopped. So which means, am I saying that the bottles which is say 20 rupees or say 10 rupees should not be there available into the market? A very tricky question to answer it very straight away. But then it is, when we were talking of the ethics, we were talking of principles and values. Do I, as a company, do my value allows to sell something which in the end would be detrimental to the health of a consumer? This is the larger question here. So if we accept it, then we are treating it as to be unethical thing, but then you have all the legal ways of selling them into the market, something like this, right? Then another thing which you talk of is planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is something that we have talked about. Products which are needing replacement before they should, because they are obsolete. Now this line tells us that the products do not become obsolete, they are made as obsolete. So the word itself tells you planned obsolescence. Obsolescence obviously is coming from this word which is obsolete. So you are planning the obsolescence of a product. You are making the product to become obsolete in a fixed time frame. So is that an unethical practice? You can term it as to be an unethical practice, because if you have purchased something today, after a year, if spares are not available to the market and if your product falls down, then you have no other option but to buy a new one, because you say that the product has become obsolete because I cannot get it rectified from the market. So this is how we actually kind of look at planned obsolescence, which is like making the product to feel obsolete, and you actually plan it also. Then there are producers who actually have been indulged into this planned obsolescence, and you should not be very much surprised that the bigger companies like Apple also have been charged that they have been practicing planned obsolescence. Look at this. Uh, this is a news clip coming somewhere out of 2007. Apple has been, called as to be practicing planned obsolescence. You would see that Apple is launching a phone, and then this phone, does it has a worth? Obviously, if you take the brand out of it, it doesn't has a worth, because it is a brand. So that is the value that it is giving to you. So hence it is it is a worthful product to buy at that price. But then when you are say investing say 60,000 into a piece of phone, and then next year or say maybe next to next year if it becomes obsolete because it is launching a new phone into the market, is that a planned obsolescence? So somehow Apple has been charged with it, and they are charged that they are asking for higher prices in comparison to the practical utility they are offering with their phones, and hence on top of it they are coming up with new phones every now and then. And in fact, if you would look at the entire this market of mobile phones, you would see that everyone has started practicing it now. So you see keep the companies keep launching the new versions of their phones every now and then, and that is something which is planned obsolescence. So planned obsolescence is a very combustible topic to touch upon, because the companies would then have their response to it as to be saying that the change is the only constant thing, and our effort is to keep influencing the people's lifestyle positively by providing them with better products as soon as possible. So hence we are actually contributing to the lifestyle of the consumers positively by exposing them with the better things in at the earliest possible. So that way it should not be looked at planned obsolescence, but then the people have been calling us to be it the planned obsolescence thing. So there is a lot of news around it. So you can see such things. Even if you go to Google and you type planned obsolescence in Apple, you just type these two words and you will see that there has been lot of thousands of results would come out, and they are actually linking Apple to be following the planned obsolescence or something like that. Okay, then the other legal, it's not legal, ethical issue is the cultural pollution. Marketers have actually spread the cultural pollution. Cultural pollution is something which is imprecise for a target segment. Now we are talking ethical issues. So ethical issues are those issues into which do not fit well into the values and principles of a society, which are not right thing to do. And how do you decide right and wrong? We will have this discussion when we will talk about perception and the belief. So something which might be good for the society might not be good for the other society. So that way we actually have to look at, you and I as a marketer, are we also populating the cultural pollution? Important thing. Now have a look at this ad which is from the Clarisil, and then we kind of will spend some time on it and to look at this.
Hi guys. Hey, I'm gonna get my stuff. So, Miss Kelly, how are things? Everything good? Yeah, thanks. Must be lonely now that Mr. K left. I'm really good company.
Clearasil Ultra Treatment Cream starts working instantly to eliminate bacteria that cause acne. Clearasil may cause confidence.
So if you would look at this ad invariably is actually showing the use of a product to boost up your confidence, and to boost up the confidence to the level wherein you are walking into your friend's house, and you are actually kind of flirting with your friend's mom. So that much of confidence it can give you. So when it was telecasted in our country, then it has created a lot of hue and cry, because in our culture this is not ethically right, this is not in line with our values, this is not in line with our principles. So it might work at some other places, but at our place it has created a problem. So this is something which is termed as cultural pollution. So when it got into trouble, then the Collective said that our objective was to inform and entertain and not to offend. We have found that the Claricel consumers have seen this ad as we have intended, a humorous and an unrealistic presentation of an awkward family event. So when they have to come out with this statement, that actually is an acknowledgement that it has done some trouble to the people at large and they have not liked it. So this is something which we term as cultural pollution. Now there are other aspects of it also. If you would look at, so much of cultural pollution charge has been made to the marketers for different number of products, different number of companies, different number of brands, that you see that it actually has to be looked at very carefully. Now for example, the another very important thing that you can actually talk about is to stereotype women as a sex object into the communications. So they have been using the woman to entice the consumers to have the positive associations with brand. Is not that also cultural pollution? There have been a lot of discussions around it, and if you would go into the Google, you will find out this thing happening, and they have been discussing this also. We have one more thing which you must be actually be conscious about, of use of children in advertising. So there has been a lot of research around it also, that how can you as a marketer use children in your advertising, because children actually make the viewers to be influenced in some ways which are not very natural. So the persuasive communication that you do using the children is something that is unethical. That is how we are looking at it. So whether it is the Claricil, this ad, whether it is use of women in communication, whether it is use of children in communication, we can also talk of subliminal advertising, which is making you to buy the things without your conscious acceptance of that thing. So these all actually comes under the cultural pollution, and there are tons of such examples that you must not do it, because it at large is influencing our culture, the way we look at ourselves. In fact, if you would look at the evolution of any human society, specifically the past industrial revolution times when the marketing has taken over the television in a big mammoth way, you would invariably realize that the changes that we have seen in our lifestyles, a lot of them can be attributed to the marketers' effort. They have taught us to be what we are today rather than what we were before. So this is how we actually have to look at the cultural pollution, and this for very clear reasons should actually be termed as unethical practice. This actually is unethical practice. So then the next unethical thing that we can talk of is and which a lot of lot of talked about is unhealthy competition. So we talk of unhealthy competition when a marketer attempts to devalue the competitive brand directly or indirectly, and this is termed as unethical behavior in promotions. Interestingly, of late this thing has increased, and it is not interestingly, but it is ironically. Rather, the right word to use is ironically. I don't know whether you can recall this Colgate and Pepsodent story, where the Pepsodent was devalued, or the Colgate was devalued, and that devaluation was taking place straight away by speaking the name of a brand. So you cannot devalue a brand directly, competitive brand directly. We have seen it happening in Patanjali, wherein this Dant Kanti ad saying that anyone who is having the white jacket are not actually necessarily speaking the truth. So that means the type of appeals that the toothpaste brands have been using since ages. They have been using the expert appeal, and expert appeal is when you are bringing an expert who actually knows and understands. So they have been using dentists. So dentists have been telling you to use Colgate because it is the best thing to do, because dentists have been asking you to talk about and to use the close-up because it is the best thing to do. So then you have this Patanjali brand coming out loud and clear and saying that can we are the only one who are providing a good product. All the people who have come in white coats by now, they were not saying it right. I am saying it right because I am not in white coat. So indirectly you are actually targeting all the brands, and that is when you would have read into the newspapers that the competitive brands have actually taken this story to the Advertising Standard Council of India, which is ASCI, and the ASCI has then kind of taken it seriously, and they have then written to the Patanjali also, and then this ad was actually taken out. So that way we are looking at this unhealthy competition taking place. So Sandeep Sharma asking cultural pollution, alcohol advertising banned to promote directly in India. Yes, Sandeep, you are very right. Alcohol advertising, when it is banned in India, is primarily you can talk it as to be a cultural pollution. Definitely, because uh, when you talk of anything, you talk of values, you talk of belief system, you talk of customs, they all relate to culture. It is our cultural value system that you should not be drinking on the roads. And any that thing which is promoting this thing to drink and to come out loud and clear onto the roads, that is not culturally acceptable. And when something which is not culturally acceptable, you have to call it as to be spreading the cultural pollution, and that way you can actually link to it. So it is a good way of looking at it, Sandeep, that you cannot should not do it. And then, as has been rightly pointed out by Bharti also, that you cannot actually advertise the alcohol brands in India and directly. There is a term which is used in advertising which is called as surrogate advertising. Surrogate advertising is wherein you are not directly naming the brand, but you are, because you cannot name it because it is illegal, but then you are using, you are getting the brand into the mind of the people by speaking of something else. So the wills, when they cannot advertise the smoking in India, so wills would say wills lifestyle. So they are not interested in selling the wills lifestyle, but they're interested in selling the wills cigarette. So when Kingfisher says Kingfisher soda, they are not interested in selling Kingfisher soda, but they're interested in selling Kingfisher beer. So this is how you actually look at that these can be related to the cultural pollution also. So good point, Sandeep. So now we were talking of unhealthy competition. Look at this. I've shown this picture to you. I think you would recall it. This is a very light way of looking at it. That to what extent have we reached, and how can we talk of the competition? This is on a busy Mumbai roads, as far as it is claimed, and it is from the Jet Airways. They say we have changed, and we are very good people to fly with. And then you see someone else named Kingfisher came out, and they have put an hoarding right on top of them, and they say that we made them change. So we because we were the best people to fly, people were coming to us, and that is why they have to change, because Kingfisher is better than us, so we have made them change. So it is not an advertising in isolation, but it is a reply. So there is difference between replying in communication and doing a simple advertising. So they are not doing simple advertising, they are replying to them. And as if this was not enough, you have the Go Airways coming right on top of it and saying, we have not changed, we are still the smartest way to fly. So how do you term it up? I don't know, but this is a very lighter side of understanding that how unhealthy competition practices are gaining grounds. And as if it was not enough, you see this is also happening. So then the Lalu Yadavji, who was the rail minister in those days, they say we will never change Indian Railways, we will always be best. And then because it was in Mumbai, someone said that the अब बस करो वरना plane hoarding से crash हो जाएगा. So this is the best issued in public interest practice. So I'm not saying that you know the unhealthy competition practices are seen in one way, but there are varied ways in which this can actually be seen, right? Okay. Now, some time back, I took this screenshot, which actually is from the Flipkart, because they have been doing this big billion days. And you know what are they saying? To all those who deferred TV shopping, अच्छा किया, you should shop now, right? You should not shop somewhere else, you should shop with us. So is it also something which you can term it as unhealthy competition coming up right onto the front page of Hindustan Times? Flipkart नहीं खरीदा, अच्छा किया, खरीदो हमारे साथ, you should do it. And this is not directly naming anyone, but this you can still call it as to be a pure advertising strategy. uh, and this is also in the same line, नहीं खरीदा अच्छा किया बता दिया, coming from Snapdeal, कहीं से भी खरीदो. So this is how the companies are starting replying to their competition rather than doing their own advertising, which is something that we must be conscious about, that how things are changing. This is another hoarding that you see. So these are all, the lighter looks at how the competition is shaping, and at least this is telling us a lot of how the competition has now taken up. So they want to have your attention. There are multiple ways in which the attention can be sought, and they have looked at this as one of the ways of looking at and seeking your attention. So this is also kind of, there you can see a trace of unhealthy competition into these practices. So the list is huge. You know that the cola wars is famous. We have already talked about children advertising, subliminal advertising. So this is like, how the unethical things has been creeping up. Now in unhealthy competition, the cola wars. Look at this ad, and this ad should actually kind of, surprise you, because this is a super example where the competitive brand is hugely defamed. So Pepsi directly naming uh, the other brand, which is Coke, and they are saying we are better than the people. So what a bad way of telling this. So this is something which we must term as to be a unethical practice. So now these are few of the unethical practices. The list is very huge. If you go into the at the deepest level of understanding the unethical practices being performed into market by the market, the list is endless. But these are some major things which your text also talks about, and which we must be conscious about as marketing students next time when we look at the persuasive communication being done from the marketer. So now, having looked at all those efforts, let us look at what could be the and how the management is responding to these needs of being ethical. So, how they have been doing it is that they have been trying to emphasize by creating a corporate culture which would make the people to uh, believe and sustain with the value system of an organization. They have also come up with code of ethics, which actually tells them that what is ethical, what is not ethical, what should be done, what should not be done, what is allowed, what is not allowed. The behavior of top management is also very much important to be ethical. There are some companies which actually are known for such things, specifically so the Tata Group. So Ratan Tata is the man who has been applauded a lot for this. Uh, and when he actually stresses these ethics and values to a point that everyone in the Tata Group has to be acknowledging and accepting and has to abiding by all these things. You can also talk of the other companies like NIIT Group also. Rajendra Pawar, the man, the co-founder of NIIT Group, is also termed as to be a very ethical man, and this can actually be seen into the companies also. So this is their response of how you can actually be uh, talking the response of management to be ethical. So the Jack Ma is also someone who is called to be so much conscious about doing business ethically, and he is in fact the one who has actually shown the world that and in fact, whenever I think of Jack Ma, I actually think of that gentleman who have asked this question that which part of marketing is ethical. I think that Jack Ma is a super answer to those questions, which actually tells you that we have examples, practical examples where the businesses have seen the epitome of success, and yet they have not left their roads of ethicalness. So this is how the management are saying that they are reacting to the need of being ethical. So you all of the efforts has to be towards managing the environment of your firm for your employees, and this environment has to have the ethical sense into it. So this is how we have been kind of talking about being ethical and some charges that the marketers have faced and how they have been reacting to all those things. So is ethics is a good business? Obviously it is a good business. It is good for shareholders, it is good for employees, it is good for business partners, customers and clients, and for the society also. So because when you talk of this public policy, when you talk of this customer relationship management, and another part of it, you if you would go into the Kotler's book, you will find out the public relations. So public relations, as I always tell my students, is about maintaining the relationships with the publics. And who are the publics are all those individuals or the groups or the business houses who have the direct and indirect ability of influencing your business. So these people can be anyone. these people can be anyone. So you have to maintain relationship with them also. So we are not only talking of shareholders, but we are also talking of even those people who are not your shareholders. Shareholders are those who are directly associated with you. Employees are those who are directly associated with you. Business partners are those who are associated with you. Customers are associated with you. But the society may not be directly associated with you. But when you are ethical, then you are actually also being sensible towards the society, and that is why doing ethics is a good business. So needless to say, when you are ethical in your business, it improves betterment into the society. It actually make you more strong. It creates the goodwill of your brand into the market that you are working in, and there are all 10, 20, 30, 50 of the things that you can positively associate as a result of being more ethical in your business. So that reminds me of this stadium into Mumbai. I don't know how many of you have watched this movie Guru. You go and watch this movie if you have not watched it. And if you would go into that movie, it is popularly said that movie is based on the life of Dhirubhai Ambani. And in that movie, in the dying hours, in the dying minutes of that movie, it is shown that Dhirubhai Ambani, who is played by Abhishek Bachchan, he goes into a Mumbai stadium and it is raining and he is having all those umbrellas and all, and he is addressing the people into that stadium where the people have come up with their own umbrellas. And it is said that it actually happened, and in Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai, wherein Dhirubhai Ambani uh, has given open invite to the people to come and sit, because those were the days when the Reliance was in little trouble and the sentiments about Reliance were not that good. So he wanted to tell the people that what he is doing is not that bad and the negative sentiments about Reliance should go away. And he has not only invited the people who are associated directly with Reliance, but he has also invited the people whosoever who wants to come and attend this. So when he was actually allowing the people whosoever who wants to come and attend it, he was actually acknowledging that these people also have that ability to influence my ability of doing business. And when we are talking of this, he is telling them that you are also important to me, and when you are important to me, I have to look after you. And when I have to look after you, I have to look after and have to be considerate about your values and principles. And when I will be like this, I would be ethical, right? So this is how we look at the ethics in marketing and the ethical conduct. I hope that this is how we can look at it. So I am done for this discussion. If you have any questions, I am in touch with the chat box. You can let me know about the questions if you have any questions. So by the time you type in your questions, let me also tell you that in between I did not found it good to interrupt and speak on that, which one of the attendees, Bharti, has pointed out. Dr. Bharti has pointed out that please be struck to the topic related and academic related questions. So we had this chat going on, so the world has given you the WhatsApp and all the other things. So I think this is a good point, but I don't found that I should be interrupting there and then only, because I have read that, because I'm in constant touch with the chat box. So I hope that Pankaj and Shripal would take care of these things in coming times if we talk of this once again, right? So you can let me know if you have any questions. So Sanju, thank you so much. You have been great audience. So anything that you wish to ask, we can take up some questions. And just to let you know that with this discussion, we have entered into the unit 4, and we are going good. My idea is of doing these online classes, that because we could not attend in person, so whatever is leftover stuff we could cover it online, so that when you come, then you come up with your assignment that I've given to you, your discussions, your presentations, so that you can come and you can straight away start this is the idea, so that we kind of do not fall short of time, because your class is huge, so I have to give each one individually some time for your presentation. So that is why if we do not do it this way, we would not have time for all those assignments and all, right? So any questions, you can please let me know. I am done from my side. So if you are not recalling any question, you can drop me a mail. I can take up those questions and we can then discuss it. So I think that we are done for the day. So uh, thank you very much. I think we can kind of uh, close it up, and thank you very much. You have been wonderful audience, and hope to see you again when